Okay, so for this second video, I'm going to talk about four-stroke diesel engine. Okay, now before I go into four-stroke diesel engine, just a quick recap on the first video. Okay, we covered four-stroke petrol engine. Okay, there's one thing which I want to highlight here. Okay, this is the four-stroke petrol engine, which I told you got to remember the arrangement. Okay, it is inlet stroke. Okay, followed by inlet stroke, compression, ignition or power, exhaust. Okay, now you can be given the arrangement in a different order. That means it can be let's say ignition, exhaust, inlet, compression, and so on. Now what I'm trying to say is it repeats. That means if you go inlet, compression, ignition, exhaust, then it repeat inlet, compression, ignition, exhaust. So it can be in this way: inlet, compression, ignition, exhaust, inlet, compression, ignition, exhaust. So it doesn't need to start with inlet in your exam. It can start with ignition. Actually inlet is of course the first stroke. Okay, the first stroke theoretically, but when the engine is running, the strokes are continuous. That means it is inlet, compression, ignition, exhaust, again inlet. So they can give you in your question, okay, the first stroke if they give you is ignition and the second stroke is exhaust, so you should know the next stroke after exhaust is inlet. Okay, after exhaust is come back to inlet. So any arrangement will work. It can start from any one. Okay, all right. I hope you understand this. Anything you can, if you have still any doubts, you can ask me. Okay, on the WhatsApp. Okay, now for four-stroke diesel engine, it's going to be very similar to four-stroke petrol engine. Of course, there will be some differences. Now the strokes are all the same. Okay, we still have basically the inlet stroke. Okay, we still have the inlet stroke followed by the inlet stroke or induction followed by the compression, and then it's the ignition or power, and then it's the exhaust. So as you can see, the stroke names are all the same, so easy to remember. Petrol engine and diesel engine have the same name for the stroke. In fact, the valves also will be the same. Okay, so that's how we're going to go through this one. We look at what is similar first. Okay, valves, inlet valve is open but exhaust valve is closed. Okay, similar to just now. Now the second thing here, if you look at compression stroke, okay, both valves are closed. Okay, very similar to earlier. And the next one also, both valves should be closed. Okay, both valves are closed for the third stroke. And the last stroke, you can take a guess, exhaust stroke, one valve, inlet valve will be closed, but the exhaust valve will be open. Okay, so the name of the stroke and the valve is exactly the same as petrol engine. Okay, for diesel engine here is also the same. Okay, the function, how it functions slightly will vary. Okay, there's some difference. First thing, diesel engine of course uses diesel instead of petrol. Okay, and first for the inlet or induction stroke, air enters the cylinder. Just now for petrol engine, the mixture of petrol and air enters, but for diesel engine there is no diesel, no petrol, nothing, only air. For the first part, only air enters the cylinder. Okay, only air. Okay, first part. Second, okay, the movement, I forgot about the movement is exactly the same. Okay, the movement is going to be of course the inlet one will be moving downwards, compression up, ignition down again, and this one is up again. Okay, all right. For the second one, the function, okay, here effect, upward movement of piston compresses the air becomes very hot. So you see there's no diesel yet at the moment. Okay, there's no mixing diesel yet in the compression stroke. just the air actually becomes compressed and really hot. Okay, so here compresses the air. Okay, compresses the air and the air becomes very hot. Okay, now at the end of this, diesel fuel is injected. Okay, at the end of this stroke, before it's completed, diesel fuel will be injected. No spark plug used. Okay, for petrol engine got spark plug. Here the diesel fuel is just injected. Okay, next we look at the. Okay, so if you see here in the petrol engine, this was the spark plug, but instead this is now the injection for the diesel. This is where the diesel is injected into the cylinder, right? Okay, the third one, ignition power. What happens? Temperature of the compressed air causes the fuel to burn. Okay, there is no spark plug, but because the air is already compressed so much, it's very hot. When the diesel is injected in the previous stroke, it will start to burn. Okay, it will burn very easily. And the last one, exhaust stroke, similar. Carbon monoxide or other gases produced during the burning is pushed out through the exhaust valve. So we can see the difference basically is one for petrol engine, there is spark plug. Diesel engine, there is no spark plug. There is just a diesel injector. Alright. Other than that, everything else is very similar. Petrol engine and diesel engine. Okay, so here you can see, you can take a look at the differences between the 4-stroke petrol engine and the 4-stroke diesel engine. So here petrol is used, here diesel is used. Okay, here got spark plug, here there is no spark plug. Okay, and here petrol enters through the inlet valve. Okay, petrol enters through the inlet valve. Here diesel is entering through the fuel injector. Okay, or diesel injector or fuel injector. Ratio of pressure low. Okay, ratio of pressure low. Ratio of pressure very high. Okay, air is compressed to very high pressure. Exhaust gases contain less pollution. Here it contains more pollution. That's why lorries, buses which use diesel engine, they produce more fumes, more smoke. Okay, petrol is lighter and is cheaper. This one is heavier and expensive. Okay, now even though petrol is a bit cheaper, okay, diesel is more expensive slightly. Okay, sometimes it's almost the same price, but lorries and buses still use diesel because it burns longer, so it can actually last longer. All right, so in the long run they save for bigger vehicles. Okay, engine of the wall is thin. Here engine of the wall is thicker. For petrol engine is quieter, the engine. Diesel is noisier. Okay, mostly used in cars. This is used in bigger vehicles, lorries. Has a carburetor. Okay, this is very important. Okay, and this one does not have a carburetor. This is what helps the mixing of the petrol and the air, the carburetor. Okay, because if you see the diesel engine, it doesn't mix and go in. Okay, it is injected separately. It is more efficient for traveling at high speed, more efficient for traveling at low speed. Alright, so this is the sum of the differences between the 4-stroke petrol engine and the 4-stroke diesel engine. Okay, so now finally let's look at the 2-stroke petrol engine. Alright, we have covered 4-stroke petrol, 4-stroke diesel. We looked at the differences, and now we're going to look at 2-stroke petrol engine. Right, first of all, this 2-stroke petrol engine is a small engine used mostly in small motors. Okay, for example, grass cutters. Okay, any small engines or small motors normally use 2-stroke petrol engine. Okay, this operation of 2-stroke petrol engine involves one cycle. Okay, you can see here one cycle that has the combination of inlet, compression, power and exhaust. All right, okay, this engine does not have an inlet valve or exhaust valve, but the piston itself functions as a valve to open and close. So I will explain to you what does that mean. All right, Now if you look here, you can read it on your own, that part. If you look here, first of all, we look at the two strokes. There's only upward stroke and downward stroke, okay, for two stroke petrol engine. Right now there is a inlet valve here. Okay, can you see this is actually a input or inlet valve, and this is the exhaust valve, okay, coming out. Now when this piston actually moves up and down, okay, the piston is here. Okay, when this piston moves up, okay, in this position, upward stroke, the inlet valve is open. Okay, when the piston moves down, it covers the inlet valve, okay, but the exhaust valve is open. All right, so the valves take turns depending on the movement of the piston. Okay, so first thing we need to know, the piston moves upwards and opens the inlet valve. Okay, now the piston, when it moves upwards like this, okay, the inlet valve is open. All right, okay, this inlet valve is open, and the mixture of air and petrol enters the cylinder through the inlet valve. So what comes in here is the mixture of air and petrol. It comes in through the inlet valve, which is open because the piston move upwards. So this one is open. All right, okay, then at the same time, in this stroke, the exhaust valve is closed. Okay, you can see here the exhaust valve is closed, therefore the mixture of air and petrol is compressed in the cylinder. Okay, so here what happens when the movement of the piston, okay, when the piston actually moves downwards, okay, when the piston moves downwards like this, you can see the inlet valve will be closed, but the exhaust valve is open. Okay, the inlet valve is closed, but the exhaust valve is open. So the exhaust or the gases can actually be released through the open exhaust valve. Okay, you can see here, that's how it's released. All right, so there's only two strokes for the two-stroke petrol engine. Okay, after this is the end of the part on the engines, okay, the types of engines. There's just a small table here which I want you to fill it in. All right, so here we got induction, compression, power, exhaust. Okay, the inlet valve, okay, you write whether open or closed for each one of this stroke. Exhaust valve, whether open or closed, fill in the blanks. Movement of piston, upward or downwards. Okay, this one either upwards or downwards for each stroke. And spark plugs, whether the spark plug is on or off. All right, so it's quite a simple exercise, and this will be end of the second video. All right.